we'll just start with say and spell your name.
All right, my name is Casey McDonald. It's CASEY, capital DONALD.
Capital D, got it. And I know this answer already, but
Shoot.
can you tell me where you grew up?
I grew up the better part of my life here in Lafayette, Louisiana. I moved here in the end of the summer of '92. My parents and I, we actually used to live in Baton Rouge. We moved here to take over the family business, which was Terrebones Athletic Center. It morphed into Terrebone Specialties, and we did monogramming and silk screening and number pressing and ad marketing specialties products right here in Lafayette, right behind Sticks Pool Hall on Johnston Street.
I remember that. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that was your family
Yeah.
business.
Mm.
What was it like to grow up in Lafayette?
It was very wonderful in terms of my experience because my family knew everybody, so I never really met a stranger in town. It was always somebody either knew my grandfather, my grandmother, my uncle, my stepdad, my mom. Somebody knew us somehow, some way. So it was never really a worry of having to meet a stranger in this town. Our house was 8 houses down from the shop. So I would get off the bus, from middle school and, walk down and ride my bike to the store and go work. So it was always nice to have a part-time job and a little jingle in my pocket. Got to meet a lot of people that way, obviously, through the shop. We got to do a lot of things that probably most people didn't get to do because we knew so many people. We got to go to a lot of different events and a lot of different, community type bonding experiences. My parents being so involved in the community, especially in athletics, that really helped out. We went to a lot of UL games, a lot of football games. We had season tickets for UL, went to a lot of LSU games as well. Lafayette High, of course, where we lived was actually right in between the store, our house, and then Lafayette High. So once I got to Lafayette High, I started walking to school and having that kind of experience. So having an experience to be able to walk to school is not something that a lot of people get. They have to ride the bus, ride their bikes or carpool and that kind of thing. And it was very safe and very fun and very free to live here in Lafayette.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Since you were on the promotional side of athletics, were you also an athlete yourself?
I was. I played pretty much every sport growing up, even soccer. When I got to Lafayette Middle, I played basketball for the middle school team. I played slide football under the great coach George Harris. I played slide baseball, and then we would travel and do sports and fishing and hunting during the summers and falls. When I got to Lafayette High, I played. I slowed it down a little bit and just played football and baseball. Played all 4 years, both sports. Ended up being an academic All-American, or excuse me, let me rephrase that. Ended up being an academic all-state athlete for football as a tight end and for baseball as a pitcher.
Nice. So what was it like to go to Lafayette High? What else were you involved with?
It was fantastic. My grandmother was actually part of the first 4-year graduating class of Lafayette High School. So my grandmother went to Lafayette High, my stepdad and my uncles all went to Lafayette High, and then I got to go to Lafayette High. So it was really cool to be a part of that, for lack of a better word, legacy. Mm-hmm. It was really great to have that sense of pride and love and deep love, having always heard great Lafayette High stories, especially football. My stepdad and uncles played football. They were quite good at it, and they have lots of friends who like to tell stories, so I got to hear all the stories growing up. So really, Lafayette High was kind of just like another step in the path for me. It wasn't anything overwhelming. It wasn't anything nerve-wracking or scary because I'd heard so much about it. Mm-hmm. But it was great. I was involved in student council all 4 years. I was in FCA my junior and senior year. I was in the yearbook committee. I was on parking lot committee, if you remember that. I was involved in as much as I could be because I loved the school. I loved the experience. I loved everybody that we really went to school with. We had a really lucky, and for the way I think of it, I guess it was very fortunate, the makeup of people that went to Lafayette High. It was very diverse, but everybody, for the most part, got along. Everybody had the parties and had the events and had the different social circles that you could do. And I felt like I was in pretty much a lot of them. I wasn't in, every single one by any means, but I felt like I had a good experience in terms of getting to know as many people as possible and getting the most out of my high school experience. So I was really, really happy with that.
Yeah. So where did life take you after high school?
Life took me to LSU, back down the road to Baton Rouge. I actually, when we were growing up in Baton Rouge before we moved to Lafayette, I was at the 1988 earthquake game, the very historic LSU football versus Auburn game, where the huge comeback at the end of the game, and it was such an emotional and such an exciting touchdown that when we scored, it was so loud that it actually registered on the geology department Richter scale on campus. I was actually on my stepdad's shoulders while that happened, and I remember just covering my ears so tight. It was so loud, and it even bled a little bit. But I just remember soaking up the passion, soaking up the excitement, and I specifically remember the conversation at the end of the noise and telling my parents, I'm coming to school here. I probably didn't know what I was saying, but I knew that I wanted to be a part of that over and over and over.
Right.
So I always went to the LSU baseball camps. I went to the Dale Brown basketball camp. I went to some football camps and stuff. We obviously went to a lot of games, baseball, the old Alex Box Stadium, the PMAC, Tiger Stadium, seeing Tiger Stadium grow. So it was always pretty much a foregone conclusion I was going to LSU. Fortunately, some of my athletics and my academics offered me the opportunity to get a couple of visits and small offers to other colleges. So I did take a few visits and go check out schools like Millsaps, Texas A&M, Louisiana Tech, McNeese, Northwestern State. But ultimately, even with everything on the table, just the opportunities at LSU just seemed to be too natural and too perfect of a fit. So I went to LSU on the 5-year plan and actually graduated in 4.5 years. I always tell people I graduated early on accident. I didn't mean to do that. Because I was there and I was working all the time, I bartended and I waited tables. I stayed all summer, and after my first year, it just made too much sense not to take a class during the summer. So I took 1 or 2 classes every summer, and before I knew it, I had all the credits I needed on accident.
Yeah.
So I actually lost my 5th year baseball season of tickets and a good time in the spring. So I was kind of bummed about that, but I ended up graduating in December of 2005.
Yeah. So where did life take you after that?
It actually took me to Dallas, Texas, where I was born and half raised. My mom and my biological father are both from Dallas, Texas. Hurricane Katrina hit, in August of 2005, which was as it turned out, my last semester of college. And I had lined up a job with a marketing firm in New Orleans, right downtown as it happened. But unfortunately, they were underwater and basically closed their doors. So everything I'd kind of prepared for was gone. So I had to pivot and look for new opportunities and a new life. So I actually graduated in December and moved up to Dallas in January and started working in Dallas. And that's when I got there. I was there for 3 years before I actually came back to Lafayette.
Yeah. So when you were growing up, at any point during school and life, did you have any mentors?
I did. I had 2 really good athletic coaching mentors. George Harris, who is basically a legendary youth football coach in the Lafayette area. He's now an offensive lines coach at Acadiana High, which he went to Lafayette High and graduated. So for him to be in the other color green's a little weird. But he's led them or helped lead them to a couple of state titles. Coach George Harris taught me a lot about life. He taught me a lot about being a man, taught me a lot about responsibility, how to hold yourself, how to present yourself, not just on the field, but in life. The other one was also another coach of mine, Coach Jay DiMaggio, who's now at Ascension Episcopal, but he was at Lafayette High for a long time. He came in to Lafayette High at the end of my sophomore year and had an immediate impact on the rest of my high school career and my high school years. We said a little earlier about how I had a great high school experience, and I think I was getting a little too big for my own britches at that point, thinking I was starting to, be a little more cool or more important than I was. And Coach helped me understand that, every man is humble, every man needs to be humble, and every man needs to know, his self-worth and his worth to others. And Coach did a really good job of keeping me grounded and helping me look towards the future of who I wanted to be in life.
That's awesome. Good lesson, definitely. Let's talk a little bit about AOC.
Sure.
Tell me how you first got involved with AOC.
I first got involved with AOC thanks to a high school friend of mine. I have been a lacrosse player and coach since I was about 13 years old, and there was no lacrosse much to speak of in Lafayette growing up. I would go back to Texas and play when I go visit my dad. And then I played at LSU. I played my 4 years at LSU. I've always known about AOC. You know, I grew up here back even before the 450,000 channels you can get on TV. AOC was one of the first channels you could watch. I used to watch This Week in Wrestling, and that was my AOC, you know, introduction and my, you know, my weekly AOC involvement back in the day. I used to actually have the TWIW sticker on my pickup truck in high school. Big bright yellow sticker on the back right window. I can see it still clearly to this day. So I always knew about AOC and knew that it existed. I didn't know the ins and outs until I got here, but how I got involved was I was looking to do something to grow the game of lacrosse. Lacrosse has had a wonderful explosion of growth in the Gulf South area of the United States, particularly Texas, Louisiana, South Louisiana, the I-10 corridor, and the I-10 corridor of Florida from Pensacola to Tallahassee, Gainesville, and down to Orlando and Tampa. But there's really not that much media coverage to speak of. And I had the time. I've been a stay-at-home dad for the last couple of years, being able to raise my 2 beautiful girls and our son. And I had the time and the envie to want to get it done. So I actually made a Facebook post and I asked if anybody knew of anywhere in town that could do a recording studio for a podcast show that I was looking to do. And my friend from high school, Nancy Borden, Judice, married name Judice, responded almost immediately and said, "Hey, we've got this whole setup at AOC. Come talk to me and check it out." And I think within the week I had become a member and I came to my first orientation meeting right here in the studio, as a matter of fact. And I think within a week of that, I got into the booth and recorded my first episode. So it was really great. It's how it's done. It's wham bam.
So tell me about your first impression of AOC.
I was taken aback a little bit. I didn't realize that the big cable companies supported such an endeavor as this, you know, and I don't think a lot of people do know that. I've kind of done a little bit of you know, one-on-one and one-on a couple of group people telling them, did you know that this is here? Are you passionate about something? It can be done at AOC, and it's a $35 membership for the year, and essentially everything is free. So come check it out. It's really cool. It's cool to see the behind the scenes. It's kind of cool, and I guess there's a piece of nostalgia in the brain for me because I go back to my thoughts of This Week in Wrestling, and then, you know, did it record right here? Did it record in the front studio? And, you know, just to see how it all gets done. And I find myself watching a few more of the shows now just to see what kind of stuff is covered. Yeah. My brain keeps turning of what else can we do? What else can I do with my membership? You know, I've already talked to I coach for the Lafayette Hurricanes youth lacrosse program here in town. My son plays, and we've got the 10 and under team, the 12 and under team, the 14s, the JV, and the high school. And knowing that we have the camera equipment here, we could essentially video our games and have them aired, which would be a fantastic jump for our kids to get a little more, you know, notoriety, a little more popularity for themselves, but for the game. So there's all kinds of fun things we can do, and I'm already talking to our board about the potential for getting some of the parents to come in and be a volunteer camera person, producer, on-air personality, you know, doing the game commentary, to give the kids something to look back on and have their memories of. You know, I come from the pre-social media world. I have very few photos, even fewer videos of my high school and middle school playing days. You know, I have a couple of programs that we saved and things like that, but I don't have many action shots. I don't have much to go back on. And I want something better than that for my kids and the kids that we coach. You know, I want them to be able to look back on their memories and be able to share it and show their family that might not be from here, but friends and family, you know, all over the country, all over the world, that they're doing something and it's something positive for them to be involved in, especially in this day and age.
What surprised you most about AOC?
Man, that's a good question. I would say off the top of my head, probably the quality of the technology. For me, I'm in the podcast booth, the podcast radio booth, even though I call my show Podio, you know, podcast radio, Podio. All of the equipment is very modern. It's very recent. It's, you know, the computers are fast. The soundboard is fantastic. It's always in great shape. It's clean. The board itself, the room itself, the acoustics are fantastic. There's multiple mics. And it's kind of a focal point of this area of production, which I really like. And then additionally, I just didn't realize how deep all of the other technology went, like all the cameras and all the stationary cameras and the mobile cameras, the lighting, all these different things that you never really think about in terms of, small studio production. There's a lot of technology here and a lot of great stuff. And I can tell after and since my orientation that everybody that's a member here cares about the equipment. They take really good care of it. They make sure it comes back in the shape that they got it, if not better. And and that way it's available to everybody. It's available to the next member in the community, the next member here at AOC. And it's really cool to see that sort of camaraderie among everybody. That I've met guys that are producing rap music videos and hip hop music to things that produce for festival and other things that are religious productions and things like that. But everybody here gets along. It's fantastic. There's no I've not seen any issues so far. So it's really cool in terms of how everybody can actually prove to exist in one space and get along and not have a problem. So that's a really cool aspect for me.
Definitely. What's your dream project to work on or to produce?
Oh man, I think it would end up being a weekly, if not bi-weekly, lacrosse on TV camera air show to recap Lafayette, STM, maybe even Baton Rouge, LSU, UL lacrosse, and just kind of make that maybe a half-hour show to talk about the growth, the highlights, behind the scenes interviews with players and coaches, get the youth kids on TV, get those guys some exposure and really continue to grow the game. UL is in a really great position to, as the size of the school they are, to actually grow the game beyond the club level into the NCAA level. And I truly think and believe getting them into a position to where they've got more coverage, to where more eyes are seeing it, maybe more UL boosters care and want to support such a team. I think that could really help the game grow in the state, which would then mean LSU can grow it, Northwestern State, McNeese, La Tech, Tulane as well, all the other schools, and even the smaller schools. Southeastern over in Hammond, they actually just played their first home game, and they're in their first season, but played their first home game this last weekend, and they played at Strawberry Field on the football field, AstroTurf, under the lights on a Friday night, and had a great turnout and a great experience. They didn't get the W, but they made that big next step, and UL plays a lot of their games in Cajun Field, and people need to know that. Yeah. And, with a show like this on AOC that we can put not only on the air, but also on YouTube and share social media wise, I think that'll get more eyes on the programs and get more attention where I think it needs to be.
Yeah. Let's do it. Come on.
Let's do it. A few more hours in the day.
We'll switch gears a little bit after that. What are you reading right now?
I read U.S. Lacrosse Magazine. I unfortunately have never really been a book reader. I do like autobiographies. I read a lot of Kennedy family autobiographies. I'm obsessed sometimes, maybe a little too much with the Kennedys. I'd rather be obsessed with the Kennedys than the Kardashians.
There you go.
I like to read about musicians that I've grown up with and love to listen to. I recently finished Jimmy Buffett's half biography, half autobiography. I like to read about Willie Nelson. Sturgill Simpson is somebody I'm reading about right now. But in terms of what I read mostly, it's going to be lacrosse-related media, just because I love the game and we're in the thick of the season. So I'm reading as much as I can because that's about what's available. There is a new television network, the LAX TV, and there are games covered on ESPN and the ESPN family of networks, but it's not as much as my appetite wants. Yeah. So I go out and I read a lot more of the social media and the online media right now than I do print.
Yeah. It's good research.
Yes. Yes, it's research for the show.
There
mostly.
You go. Yeah. You talked about music and musicians. Who would be on your best of playlist if you could only listen to one playlist the rest of your life? Who's on it? Several people. If you
want. Okay. I thought you meant one.
No,
okay.
No.
That's easy. Dave Matthews, without a doubt. Dave was one of my first concerts during my formative years, and I got to see him 6 or 7 more times in my life. I'd really like to see him and Tim Reynolds this summer, but we'll find out. Yeah, Dave, Jimmy Buffett, Jim Croce, Sturgill Simpson, Roger Krager, Robert Earl Keen, Reckless Kelly, Whiskey Myers, a lot of the Red Dirt Country guys. I'm really big into that music scene right now, and have been for a few years. A couple more of the old school guys too. I would say a lot of Queen. I'd throw some Queen on there. Freddie Mercury was just an absolutely incredible artist, and taken way too soon from us. Rush, Neil Peart on the drums. Without, I mean, come on. Yeah, Rush definitely. A lot of classic rock, certainly. Texas country. Not much current music. It's very hard for me to find current pop music or current pop rock music that I can get behind. I think all of the great poets of today's world are in country music, and not so much the bro country and the cool girl country, which, you know, there is some good listenable stuff of that, but I find a lot of the smaller talent or less popular talent has got the poets of this world, you know. Yeah, the guys from Reckless Kelly, Wade Bowen, Roger Krager, Robert Earl Keen, Willie Nelson, of course, Sturgill, we've already mentioned. Great lyricists, great musicians, great composers. And I can find myself getting lost in that music. Easy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What were your favorite books or movies, singers during your childhood?
Oh, that's easy. We can go back. We just went over the list. Dave Matthews, without a doubt. Jim Croce. I grew up, you know, I'm in that weird generation between Gen X and Gen Y. So I grew up on a little bit of vinyl, a little bit of cassette, and then CDs came out, you know, towards middle school and high school. So I was very fortunate enough. My parents had a ton of vinyl: Earth, Wind and Fire, Jimmy Buffett, Jim Croce, Journey. Oh, I left Journey off my list. Journey's on my list for sure. So, you know, some of those old school, really, really cool songwriters did a lot of forming of who I became. Garth Brooks was big for me in my middle school years. Tim McGraw. But those would definitely be the artists if we're going that deep. In terms of books and things like that, for me, it was still always autobiographies back then. It was more sports autobiographies for me growing up, you know, as an athlete. Or biographies. I like to read about Dale Brown and Shaq. Archie Manning was a really cool guy to read about growing up. Bo Jackson. Mostly we loved Bo because my baby brother wanted to name my baby sister Bo Jackson. Nice. So Bo was a big thing in our family. Who else did I read about a lot growing up? I actually just realized I read a lot of those illustrated classics like Treasure Island and Count of Monte Cristo, but the ones that had the big font and the pictures in them. I liked books with pictures because I have a very, as big of an imagination and dream as I have a problem picturing what the author wants me to picture. I don't like reading something that becomes a movie and then seeing the movie and going, well, that's not what I pictured at all. And so now it kind of ruins the book for me. So like I only ever read like half of a Harry Potter, maybe a quarter of one, because the movie came out at the same time I was reading it, and I saw it and I was like, well, that's not anything. So my imagination doesn't get to run the right way. So I try to read more reality than fiction and whatnot. I grew up on a lot of John Grisham as well. I like audiobooks. I especially when I got into coaching, I had to road trip a lot. So I got into audiobooks big time in my early coaching years. And now that we do road trips with the kids and of course now coaching and playing, our son's playing, we've got, you know, a good 4 hours there, 4 hours back. So we can knock out some audiobooks. My wife and I can while the kids watch DVDs in the back.
Absolutely.
So yeah, audiobooks are big. The John Grisham books were good. Carl Hyacin are really good books. We did the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Girl Who Played with Fire. Those kind of books are really fun to listen to because they keep you going and they keep you awake on those drives. So yeah, I would say all of that. Bring it all in.
Awesome. Nice.
I would give a lot of credit to my senior year English teacher, Miss Jennifer Anderson. Miss Jennifer Anderson, for my love of the written word. we walked into her class, and anyone from Lafayette High that had English 4 with Miss Anderson knows the door that said, "Abandon all hope, ye." Wait, it was "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." And you walk in, and all the walls were painted with the Dante's Inferno scenes, and everybody got to do that every year. And I remember the first day of class, she jumped up on a desk and read one of the quotes, and we all just kind of looked at each other and went, "This ain't your average English class." And I remember just being able to soak up the passion from her and learning to appreciate archetypes in her story. And now I kind of, or I say since then, have always looked for those, even in the biographies and the autobiographies and some of the drama fiction that I'll read. I always look for that and recognize it, and always think back fondly of her.
Yeah. She is actually my favorite teacher ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she was jumping on the desk the year before.
Yeah, she's definitely up there for favorite ever.
She is.
Yeah.
Definitely. What is your superpower?
Oh my. I would say for the last 4 years, my superpower is the ability to not throw my kids in front of traffic. No, I've raised 3 kids for the last 3 years. I would say my superpower is turning them into good individuals, good young children with manners and respect and an outlook on life. We don't let our kids say, "No, I don't like that," or "No, I don't want that." We make sure they try everything. I'm really quick at changing diapers. I can change a diaper, wipe a butt, and get it all done and cleanly. I don't make a mess. I don't get sick about that. No, my superpower. Man, I don't know. I've never had that question before. I would say my ability to sleep for 10 to 12 hours and not have a single worry about it. Because when I get tired, I get exhausted, and I can just zone out and sleep. No, I have no idea. I really don't know what my superpower is.
Several. You've already named a few.
I guess, yeah, but I've just never really thought about it that way.
If you could have dinner with 5 famous people from history, who would they be?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Or from life.
Sure. 5 famous people from history or life. Definitely JFK would be one, for sure. Roosevelt. Oh, man, this is interesting.
It's not a test. You're good.
Yeah, no, it's not a test, but it's like, wow, I really want to make this table really nice. If I'm having a steak with these guys, I want to know it's a really good steak.
I love that it's a steak.
Oh, it has to be a steak. Yeah, absolutely. It has to be a steak and a couple of old fashions. Wow. This is interesting. Okay, Kennedy, Roosevelt, Jim Croce. He just seemed like a really cool guy that could just light up the table, light up the room. So that's 3. All right, 2 more famous people or famous. This is fun because it's going through my head, and it's like everybody's faces or busts are dancing across my mental imagery. Man, Joan of Arc, without a doubt. Bad female, without a doubt. And Bob Dylan.
Nice table.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, gotta go with Bob Dylan.
Would there be a jam session at the table?
There would have to be a jam session between Croce and Dylan. I mean, between the two of them, we're probably putting out 3 albums. Nice. They're going platinum tomorrow.
I like it.
Yeah, that would be epic.
It would be.
Absolutely epic. Yeah.
What is your spirit animal?
Oh man, my spirit animal. Oh, okay. Here we go. So, my spirit animal is an emperor penguin with Morgan Freeman's voice. Because not just from March of the Penguins, I had this way before March of the Penguins ever came out. I have loved penguins. The penguin animal, for some reason, is just a really cool animal to me. I actually, when we were gonna do turning Lafayette Lions lacrosse into a city league team. We're looking for a mascot. I really wanted it to be the Lafayette Penguins. I know it makes no sense whatsoever, but I just wanted to be able to put a penguin mascot on a lacrosse helmet and logo. And I might still do that because I'm still trying to do the girls teams, and I might do the Penguins of some kind or the Parish Penguins or something to make it like a P and a P, you know, Lafayette Parish Penguins, something. But a penguin with Morgan Freeman's voice would just be the coolest thing ever. And that's kind of what I picture. Like when my morality angels in my head are telling me what to do, I'm watching a penguin talk with Morgan Freeman's voice. And if I go before Morgan Freeman does, he has to be the narrator of my movie or my autobiography. That would just be like the ultimate thing ever. Yeah.
Best answer so far about
awesome.
the face.
Awesome.
In my opinion, at least. That was funny. What's one thing that few people know about you?
Oh boy. Let's see. One thing that few people know. Everybody knows I like to sleep. Everybody knows that I cry at emotional TV. My mom and I both have that in common. My great-grandmother used to joke with everybody and say, "Don't bother Chris. She cries at the TV." And I cry at the TV because I get emotional. Like the new series, This Is Us, that new series, This Is Us, you can't get through an episode without crying. If you do get through it without crying, you have no soul, and we might not need to be friends because I don't need that in my life. I need somebody that can cry at the TV. Something that somebody doesn't know about me. Gosh, that's tough. Everybody knows I'm a bit of a hoarder. You know, I have my collections. I'm not like freakishly like A&E documentary hoarder TV show about it, but I'm organizationally sound about it. Man, you know, I'm very vocal about myself. I don't know what somebody might not know about me. Geez, this is fun. Everybody knows I have more T-shirts than any man should possibly own. I literally have an entire closet of T-shirts hung.
Do you have a favorite?
A favorite T-shirt?
Uh-huh.
Oh man, pretty much all of my long sleeve athletic dry fit wear T-shirts, the long sleeve version. It's a little warm today to wear long sleeve, but pretty much all of those because I mean they're just so light and comfortable. Man, something that somebody doesn't know about me. We talked earlier about, you know, my favorite musicians and things that molded me. I will only ever do this in the car by myself, but I will full on belt out the female version of any duet or old school like 80s, 90s pop music.
Oh yeah.
For some reason, I can make my voice go high, or at least I tell myself I can make the voice go high, and I will rock out to, for some reason, I will belt out to the loudest I can. Nice. In my own car by myself, not with the girls, not with my son, not with my wife in the car. Nice. But I will do that in the car. I will belt out the high notes. Nice. Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, even a little bit of Miley. You know, I'll throw some Miley on if I catch it. You know, scanning through the stations. Stevie Nicks. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'll hit those notes and I'll go with it. Absolutely.
Your secret's out, by the way.
My secret's out. There's no shame in it, but it's definitely not something people know because I only ever did it by myself. So yeah, that's it. Man, it took a while to think about, but that was it. That's definitely it.
What achievement are you most proud of?
I would say becoming a dad. Man, it's gonna get a little emotional here. Yeah, definitely becoming a dad. Right before Colin and Carson, you know, coming into my life, I lost one of my players at practice, one of my lacrosse players in my third year in Orlando. We were having an off-season workout, and he went down with a, what do you call it, an undiagnosed heart condition. And we were doing sprints, and we were maybe 10 to 15 minutes into practice, and he said he was out of breath and he needed to catch his breath, and he went to lay down right next to the track for a little bit, And after a couple of reps through, you know, I checked on him and said, "Hey man, you all right?" And he's like, "I'll be okay." And then another rep through, and one of the players grabbed me and said, "Coach, he's blue." And man, we worked on him. We gave him CPR. Worked on him through when the paramedics arrived, and a lot of that's really a kind of a blur and a memory. But unfortunately, we lost him. Essentially, we lost him on the track that day. They kept him on life support. They airlifted him out. Or no, they took him in an ambulance out, took him to the nearest hospital, and then airlifted him to the larger hospital in Orlando, and he was there for about a day and a half. And that really hit me hard. That happened the week before Christmas break, and I was actually coming home to see my parents and see my brothers and sisters, and then go up to Dallas to see my dad and some family, and that was a really hard hit, and I was not in a good place. That was rough. And a few months after, you know, Ashley and I had started dating a little bit and seen each other, and Carson came into existence, you know, however you believe it, but she was in, you know, the belly. And that changed my whole perspective on life, you know, immediately. You know, at that point I was 30 years old. I'd always been the oldest brother, the oldest sibling, you know, the oldest cousin. You know, at that point, you know, dating and marriage wasn't in my world yet, because I was coaching and traveling so much. And I was always so focused on being a good coach and being a good mentor to my kids, like Coach Harris and Coach DiMaggio were for me. And I always thought that was going to be the mark of my life, was to be a good coach. And the day I found out that I was going to be a dad, it all changed. And it's such a cliche and so cheesy to say that sometimes, but it really is. It doesn't make sense until it happens to you. You know, you always hear people say, "Oh, I could never imagine my life without my kids," and, you know, I couldn't imagine not being a father or a mother. And I could imagine that, because I wasn't a father. You know, I didn't have that. I didn't have that thought that ingrained in me. And ever since I've become a dad, it's really truly been the best accomplishment of my life. You know, I teach my girls everything. I teach my boy everything. You know, taught him how to ride a bike. You know, taught him how to write. Taught him how to read. I teach the girls how to do things that, you know, and become great individuals. And yeah, I want them to be lacrosse players, and I want them to be, you know, cool kids in school, and, you know, all that good stuff too. But honestly, being a dad and being present and being here and being a good husband all at the same time, I think personally that's my greatest accomplishment. And I hope it keeps going.
What was your student's name?
Daniel Valenson. Danny. He was a transfer that came to our school. He came a little too late in the year prior, so he couldn't play, but he was with us all summer and all fall. He was a kid who had a little bit of a rougher middle school and high school experience prior to coming to us. And lacrosse was one good things in his life that kept him out of trouble, and we realized that early on for him. He and I realized it together, as well as with his dad, and him diving in head first and wanting to be a part of that was a big positive change in his life. He had actually also just gotten into a kind of a cohort internship of engineering background through his dad's company, and that was something that he was going to take into college, because it was his senior year, and he was going to take it into his collegiate associate's degree kind of a work, and he was really proud of the changes he had made in such a short time. Yeah. But oh man, that was tough. But the fact that he made the changes, and he was proving to people that you're not defined by what you've done before. You're defined on recognizing the situation and improving it from that point forward. And we created the hashtag Danny26 for him. Pretty much every time, you know, we share, and I say we, my former players, my assistant coaches, the parents, you know, anybody from the school, you know, that we made a really big push to get heart screenings in with your yearly sports physicals. It does cost a little bit more. We've done some awareness media and things like that, and getting lobbyists to try to get that going, nationwide, because if you can save just one kid, then Danny's loss was worth it. That was his dad's message from the get-go. Actually, it was his message while we sat in the hospital cafeteria together. He needed a break, and I needed a break from the room, and we actually went down and sat at the table, and his dad said, I don't want Danny's life to be for nothing. If we save one kid by bringing awareness to undiagnosed heart conditions, then it's all worth it. Yeah. And sure enough, within a month, we had one girl at our own school at University High who was a girls lacrosse player, Hannah El Masri. She ended up getting a scan and realized that she had a undiagnosed condition, and they were able to get it under control, get it medicated, and she was able to continue on, and she is now a college graduate and doing great things in life. Yeah. And I'm just so proud of her and the woman she's become. Yeah. And we've done that hand over fist, dozens of times so far for kids that we know about, and the kids that we don't even know about. It's got to be even greater at this point. Yeah. But there's still work to be done.
Yeah, it's a great legacy.
Yeah, thank you.
How would you like to be remembered?
I'm good time Charlie. I want everybody to be in a good mood around, anywhere, anytime I'm around them. I want them to have the great time. I want the memories to be there. I want to always be remembered as the guy that wants to make sure you're having fun. My thing is I want to be somebody you look back on with, good memories, and you raise a glass and you say, that was a fun guy. In addition to, of course, being a good dad and good husband.
Do you consider yourself a mentor?
I've been called that. I don't consider myself a mentor because, my mentors had salt and pepper hair and beards, and they were a little older. I'm getting a little bit of salt in the beard, a couple of strands on top. My wife does a good job of plucking those out when I'm sleeping. No, I don't think I'm a mentor yet. I'd like to think I'm a good coach. I'd like to think I'm a good influence. But I don't think I have the experience in life just yet to be a mentor. Do I want to be somebody that people can go to for advice and make improvements? Absolutely. But I don't think I'm a mentor just yet.
Last question.
Okay.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh man. Husband, dad, coach.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
That's what
you.
I got. Thank you. This has been fun.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.